Hello, it's George Anderson here from intelligentrunning.com, and today I'm going to show you how to do a hip flexor stretch. Now the hip flexors are the muscles in the front of the hips that do this movement here, but they're also activated when you spend a lot of time sitting down on your desk during the day or in a car or just on the couch. And what happens then is those muscles tend to shorten and they tend to tighten, which can tilt the pelvis that way, which then puts strain through the hamstrings. So then we spend all this time stretching out the hamstrings before we go running and wonder why we get tight hamstrings and hamstring problems. So what I'm suggesting is stretching out the hip flexors to rebalance that balance of the pelvis, take out some of the stress from the hamstrings and allow us to run more freely and hopefully more injury free as well. It's really easy to do. I'm going to show you a couple of variations. The first one, if you're in the house and you've got carpet or you've got grass in the garden, this is probably the easiest way to do it. So I'll demonstrate it here. Hard floor, but I'm going to rough it out just for you guys. So don't worry about me. I'm going to come down to a kneeling position. So I've got one knee back and 1 foot forwards. Now I want to make sure this foot's quite far forwards because I'm going to slide my hips forwards like that. So the key with this is as I push forwards, I don't want to arch my back. I want to push forwards and tuck my tailbone under. So I'm trying to flatten out my back here. See there, my back arches, I can come all the way forwards. I don't want to do that. I want to tuck under and push forwards. I'm actually squeezing this butt cheek as well, and that's going to help release a little bit more of that tension in the hip flexor. So I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to hold it there for a few seconds. I'm actually going to back off again. I'm going to come back through, do the same thing. So I can really feel the stretch coming in there, especially when I get that tucking under with the tailbone. So that's the first way of doing it. The second way of doing it, which is actually maybe a little bit more convenient if you're not on a nice carpeted floor or the grass, or you just want to have a quick stretch of the hip flexors. A great way of doing it is just standing up, 1 foot slightly in front of the other, and again, just get that tucking under with the tailbone, pushing the hips through. We're not going after this lunging movement here. We don't want that. That's not going to touch the hip flexor. Back heel just off of the ground, tuck the tailbone under, and get the stretch coming into the hip flexor there. Now that's another great way of stretching out the hip flexors. And it depends on where I am or what kind of a mood I'm in as to which one I'll do. They'll both get the muscle in the same way. One extra thing you can do, if I come to the front and show you, once I'm stretching out the hip flexor there, I can actually bring my arms up overhead and then I can lean in towards the lead leg. And what that's going to do is it's going to stretch the lower back, the lumbar vertebrae, the spine. And what happens then is because the hip flexor attaches to those lumbar vertebrae, or into the lumbar vertebrae, it increases the stretch. So not only do you get some good mobility for the lower back, you're also going to get an increased stretch there into the hip flexor. Just be careful not to lean forwards or to rotate around. You just want to lift up and pull over to the side. A final thing you can do to add in a little bit of bonus stretchiness, mobility to the hip flexor before you go running is once you get this driving movement going, add in an opposite arm like a big backhand as you're coming up and through, taking it down, pushing through. All the while my back heel is off the ground, I'm just getting this driving movement, I'm not compromising that at all. I'm just opening it up, then back down. Again, you get this stretch right down through the body across this plane down through from one side across and down to the other side into the hip flexor. There's the movement there. You only need to spend say 30 to 60 seconds on each side stretching out or deactivating the hip flexors to make a big difference, a big impact on your running. It really does make a difference to how you feel straight away as well. So it's well worth spending the time doing it. So that's how you do a hip flexor stretch before you go running. I'm George Anderson and I'll speak to you again soon.